Hi, my name is Janelle Anderson, and we'll be talking about abortion rights, building a policy agenda. This is for social policy analysis for Dr. Colin Woods. Today we'll be discussing how to build a social policy agenda. We'll be going over the diagnosing, softening, and activating over my topic, which is abortion rights. We'll be going over the history of abortion and the first step in the agenda building process and taking us through what the policy procedure looks like. So, when did the view of abortion change from being a common, well advertised practice into a one with disapproval, illegality, moral obligations, objections, and a stigma? So the history of the abortion in the United States is somewhat of a roller coaster. It's one been with a lot of historical elements, which was one of the Supreme Court's big decision, Roe versus Wade. It's been a topic which has been very controversial. And here is a history of abortion timelines. Let's, beginning in 1821, which has to do with Connecticut, when it became illegal in the United States for a woman to put any type of poisoning in her body. Right now, we have, I apologize, we have the eugenics movement from the late 1900s to the early 20th centuries, where it was a declining birth rate amongst Northern European settlers, and it led to the government promoting the role of families and warning against race suicide, where there was a fear that incoming immigrants will soon dominate the population. And then the women's suffrage movement from 1840 to 1920s, that was when it wasn't just about voting. In fact, it was a general push for economic and political equality for women. It resulted in petitioning for their entry into universities, and it increased the employment of women from 2.7 million to 7.8 million into universities, and particularly Harvard, for subjects such as gynecology and acceptance into top programs in schools. It was pretty much for women to take control of their own lives and issues directly to do with their bodies. And it fell into us to act as roles such as caregivers, women as midwives, apothecaries, homeopathics, and it was men who pretty much dominated the medical communities at that time. And at the beginning of the women's suffrage movement, it was men that began to believe that their jobs were in jeopardy because women wanted to take control of their bodies. And now we are in the current era of the American Medical Association, which was founded in 1847, and that was immediately set out to make abortions completely illegal in the U.S. And the thought that it was kept women from dominating the medical field, since abortion would only be permitted in times of saving the mother, which required the recommendation of a doctor. And at that point, the doctors were particularly men. So the key players in the history of abortion at that time was Horatio Stoger. He was considered to be the founder of modern gynecology. He was the alumna of Harvard, where he joined the New American Medical Association, and he formed the Committee on Criminal Abortion. He wrote 9 documents and geared books towards women that were meant to shape, the abortion issue. On of moral objections and criminality. And that campaign was started back in like 1856 and towards like 1860. And it had 20 states that enacted laws immediately concerning abortions. And then we have Mr. Anthony Comstock, which, you heard of the Comstock laws that was founded because of him. And he was very deeply religious, and because of him, created the Comstock Laws of 1873, which forbid the use of contraception and abortion pills and anything to do with aborting the fetuses or to do with miscarriages, whether it be medical or spontaneous. And he bought several people to go ahead and get on board with him. So, and he changed the lives of many different people. So, let's carry on. And as you can see through the timeline, whether we go through 1960, we had 20 states that laws against abortion. 1860, 20 states against abortion. 1873, the Comstock Law criminalized contraception and abortion except in cases deemed absolutely necessary by the doctor. 1890, more statutes restricting abortion unless it was medically necessary. And 1896, the Chicago Health Department enforced rules on midwives that disallowed them and to own any instrument that was used in any abortion procedures. There was also a growing trend in facilities and organizations, and even newspapers tried to diminish the reputation of abortionists. It became a long campaign of changing the public's opinion on abortion. So this is where it kind of all started. 1964 was Griswold versus Connecticut. It was a court case about contraception. It ruled in favor of the court's privacy. So this is where we finally got the ball rolling. In 1967, Colorado first relaxed the abortion laws. Go Colorado, in favor of pro rights. In 1970-74, more states began to follow suit. 72, we have Steinstall versus Bard, determined that married couples have the right to information involving contraceptives. In 73, elected voluntary abortions remained illegal until the Roe versus Wade case, when it was ruled that women had the right to privacy, which included their decision to terminate, and also that was the Doe versus the Bolton case. And 1973, the Hyde Amendment passed, preventing the funding of abortion through Medicaid. And 2000, which is Steinbrenner versus Cohart, ruled that the ban on partial birth abortions by Nebraska law. Ruling on this case by Supreme Court eliminated 29 other statewide bans. 2003, after passed by Congress, Bush signed into law that a federal ban on all abortion procedures, which was immediately struck down by National Abortion Federation in court. So throughout history, cultures relied heavily on herbal, seeming harsh and obscure methods to force miscarriages, like relying on the use of like pennyroyal and different types of herbs and teas that they concocted throughout the different eras. So this has been going on for quite a long time. So currently at this point, from 2000, since we've had the new laws and through this new era that we are in, 2011 through 2020, states now enacted 480 abortion restrictions. That's over 1/3 of the 1,304 restrictions passed by states since 1973. So it seems as if instead of us moving forward, we are now beginning to move backwards. So in Roe versus Wade, in 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court affirmed that the access to safe and legal abortion is a constitutional right. 79% of Americans do not want to see it overturned. Overturning Roe v. Wade could put a safe, legal abortion out of reach for 1/3 of people ages 1 to 49 who may need it. Now, abortion is healthcare. Before this pregnancy, healthcare was safe and legal. Legal abortion caused at least 1 in 6 pregnancy related deaths. Doe versus Bolton. This is another case that was conjoined with Roe versus Wade. A lot of people don't know a lot about Doe versus Bolton, but this also got the ball going because in this preceded the Roe versus Wade. In 1968, the state of Georgia added 3 new subsections to Chapter 26, Section 12 of their criminal code, hereafter called the Georgia Abortion Law. Doe versus Bolton expanded women's access to abortion by striking down laws that restricted reasons for which women could receive abortions. Now, the Supreme Court ruled that the Georgia laws were constitutional, and the pre-abortion procedure requirements were for residentially med committee, 2 practitioners, and in accredited hospital only were no longer needed. So that means that they were able to go ahead and come in and get an abortion in the state of Georgia if it was deemed that they needed to get it done. What happened with Doe, this is a Miss Doe, by the way. That's not her real name, but that was the name that she used when she wrote her case. In fact, what happened was they decided on Doe versus Bolton the same day as they decided on Roe versus Wade. That is the reason why you can have a nationwide ruling and states in themselves can have separate rulings. So that is the reason why abortion cannot be deemed as illegal, but each state can go ahead and mandate their own separate rulings on what is quote unquote legal within their own territories. Because the Supreme Court, out of the judges, decided, okay, well, they agreed with some parts of Roe versus Wade, but they disagreed with some parts of Doe versus Bolton. And when they were each writing their reviews, they decided to say, okay, well, this is what part I didn't agree with. This is the part I agreed with. And when they were all settling it out, that's how the policy change all came about. So let's take a look at the problem. The problem that we are looking at is for individuals to have access to adequate care and to make the correct choices they feel is right for their lives, whether it be morally or ethically correct. We are looking at abortion bans within states. We're looking at the bounty hunting scheme. And we're looking at lawsuits against those who assist in abortion services. Currently, right now, these may not look like these are real problems, but in several states, these are all issues that people might be facing. So when we go to diagnosing the problem, that's the stage that we need to bring together what knowledge we have, the evidence, and different people to share the understanding and to define and create the single project challenge. So we're going to look at where are the issues coming at? How complex is this issue? What systematic factors and the political and institutional and do they play a part in the issue? Now let's go back to the problem. Now, for individuals to have access to adequate care and to make the correct choices, do they feel is right, whether it be morally or ethically correct? Right now, when we're looking at our problem, the issues that we have, that is a very big issue. We have two sides that are deliberating, do whether it is fair for people to say, is it legal or is it illegal? You know, is it fair for people to have the abortions? You know, how you know, is it murder? You know, is can they restrict the abortion? Who are paying the price? You know, there are people with low incomes and people who have to drive long distances. You have to people who have to go ahead and, you know, people who don't have the money, people that at this point that unfortunately cannot afford another child. They may not be in the correct frame of mind. They may be raped, they may be abused, you don't know what life circumstance may have thrown their way that they may be forced to carry the child. And unfortunately, because of these laws, they may have to go ahead and end up keeping the child because they found out too late, and it may not cause them detrimental harm to unfortunately decide that keeping this child may endanger their own life. So the abortion ban that they're going to have on them, which, you know, the state may decide they don't want to have abortions, they're going to end up now having to go seek a facility that will end up taking them. So now it puts them into a bounty hunting scheme. How will they be able to go ahead and search out a facility that will take them? Now they're going to have to look for lodging. They're going to have to look for a place that will take them. Will this, you know, doctor take them? Will they? How will they get there? Will they seek lodging? Will they get there in time? Will they be able to afford it? How much will it cost? Then now there's these lawsuits against those who assist in abortion services. There's some laws, for example, in the state of Texas, that will be able to sue someone or any provider or civilian or anyone who works in the clinic. Any random person off the street can sue them because they assisted them in aiding to get an abortion. How fair is that? So softening the spin is now pretty much softening the ground to drop a bomb. So what do we mean by that? It's, you know, getting everybody to try to be on board, getting, you know, giving a little, taking a little, making, you know, negotiating, having everybody to feel it out. So how does it apply to how to make them want to be a part, to make them want to, you know, join the cause? So what we want to say is, you know, get freedom for everyone. Everyone deserves freedom. Everyone deserves the opportunity to make a choice for their body, to do what's right for them. Um, Abortion is not a one size fit all. Circumstances may not be what you would like, however, it's what that person desires or needs. You know, a woman's access to abortion may not be what you consider to be fair, but it's in that moment, it may be what that mother or that father at that point feels is right for them and in their best interest of that child. At that point, it is what impacts them. Most people do not realize that they're pregnant until they're after 6 weeks pregnant. The majority of people that are able to go ahead and get the abortion, they they wouldn't know. And some of these laws are not stating, they're stating that they can only get the abortion up until 6 weeks. Then what happens after that? If it was your child, how would you feel if, you know, they make no grounds for rape or incest? Then you're having to carry a child for someone, you know, that you were raped or unfortunately, has some unforeseen circumstances too. There is no differentiation because at that point we all are held in standards of the law. There's no there's no differentiation at that point. The only exception to certain bans is if to save the life of the parent, and if your life is not in danger, then what? At what point? So, you know, what they are trying to do right now is trying to create a law as a Women's Health Protection Act, which is WAPA, which would create a statutory right for healthcare providers to perform abortion care and corresponding rights for their patient to receive that care. The solution right now would be to abide by the original 1973 decisions in Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Volter. The states would have constructed a lattice work of abortion laws, which would have codified, regulating, and limited whether, when, where, or under what circumstances a person can and may obtain an abortion. And at the same time, what they can do is go ahead and build that support. Build the support of those around you. Build the support of the team that you have. Continue to build the network. Continue to build the the foundation of the team that you have working with you and the people that you have working on the same level of issues that you will need to get the word out about what you are trying to change. So then you go ahead and do is activating the change. Let's go ahead and say activating the change. We'll start off with like coupling. So when you go ahead and start with like coupling, which would be like providing the problem and the solution at the same time. Then you would have framing and finding tiles. Then you would do the negotiating and the bargaining, which would be like the if and the budding. So you would be with the abortion and procedures, how you would do the negotiating and bargaining, which would you kind of do what they did with the Roe versus Wade and the Doe versus Bolton. They ended up doing like splitting the votes. So they ended up proving the vote for not not illegalizing abortion, but at the same time, they end up saying they put parameters on certain things. So what we could do is going back to that. We could assemble early sponsors and supporters. We could continue to go ahead and gather up certain sponsors and supporters. We can always get new people on board, continue to get the word out, continue to keep everybody up to date, continue to keep on pushing out awareness of new campaigns, continue to push out awareness of everything that we have going on, new legislators, get the word out of activities, marches, everything that we have going out, routing. When we say routing, we're going to make sure that we are getting the right people involved. We are making the right moves. If we know that we have a rally that we need, pro-life on board, we are going to send these things out to pro-life. We're not going to send these things out to people who are not pro-life. We're trying to get everybody who we need there. We're going to get the media coverage there. We're going to try to go ahead and spread the word. So that's when we say we're going to activate the change. We're going to try to fit what we have into these check the boxes. We need to have the people involved into our frame so that they'll be able to meet us where we are, and we'll be able to promote our agenda so that we can continue to build on our basis, that everyone around us will be able to continue to hear our message and to know that what we are working on, so that they know that we're still active and trying to create the change in the community and in our environment. So how to create the change? just to recap, step one, we'll talk to our desired audience. Overall, utilize different needs to assess the needs of our stockholders, the community our organization represents, obtain our feedback, and begin our conversations now. So when we need to talk about our with my topic, which was the abortion, my desired audience would be women, children, those who have anybody in their lives. I target my audience. I go to them and I let them know, hey, this is what I want to know. How would you feel? I would appeal to their emotional needs. I let them know, how would you like it if someone would have done this to you and to your family member? Let them know and try to get them on board. Obtain their feedback and say, hey, would you like someone to do this to your daughter, your niece, your sister, your brother, your mother? And more than likely the answer would be no. And then start that and get that conversation going. Then I start to engage. I will discuss my agenda with them, let them know what I want for them, which would be like, I would love your support. This is what we have on the ballot box. This is what we would like to change. This is what we are hoping for. And reach out to those with similar interests, continue to form the alliance with them and say, hey, we're having a rally, we're having this, come out and support. Then I want to go ahead, from we do that, we want to go ahead and let them know. We start to educate our policymakers and our legislators, which would be writing letters, reaching out to them, say, this is what is affecting us. This is what we need from you all. So the change starts within here, and then we send it out there. If we were, in the community wide, but when we're out there, that's how, when we're changing the policy, we begin to write the laws and we try to get the laws passed. And then from there, we engage with the incoming administrators or, the incoming, incoming administrators or the incoming, senators or mayors or anyone that's within government, because they may not always be up to date with the current events because they have stuff on their minds. And then, and we never stop advocating, and we always stop advocating. We always keep up to date. We always keep going, and it's just a constant flow because our agenda never stops, and we always keep on pushing. All right. Well, thank you so much.